All of you, good afternoon. Yes, nice, lively class. Okay. So, for all of you, how was your weekend? Did you revise what we discussed last class? You have? Okay. And I had requested all of you to bring your textbooks also. You managed? Yes, good afternoon, Khushi, Pankaj, Bhumika. Bhumika, the same girl Bhumika I knew once who disappeared, or new Bhumika? We had one Bhumika in, oh, new one. Okay, fine. So we had one in offline. She suddenly disappeared. Hi, Aftansh, Hidayatullah, Anupam, Shivam. Okay. So, our discussion was on population geography. Yeah, effectively, this is your third class. Voice problem, you can't hear me? You look unsure. और बढ़ाएं? Is it okay now? Because beyond a point, it starts echoing then. Yeah, hello, all of you. Good afternoon. Take it. Thank you. So, yeah, I'm talking about population geography. Effectively, yes, you're right. Okay, Sudhanshu, today is the third class. The first class, a bit of orientation we had. Then we started off the discussions on what is geography, what type of syllabus, what type of approach. The second class, we began formally with geography. I explained the species origin, what are the factors in how the species originated, the evolution process. In the last class, I discussed the population distribution around the world, where do people live, where they don't live. So I gave you some conceptual terms. See, if you look at the discussions are not really something that you do not know. I mean, इसमें कौन सा rocket science है? That where the conditions are good, okay, people will be living there more. Where there are problems of land, water, resources, okay, droughts, disasters, people will be less. We know that people will live more in urban areas. People are lesser in areas where we have problems, economy. It's commonsensical. But then the same thing we must discuss from geographical technical concepts, right? So that is where the whole art lies. It's like don't cut trees. इसमें कौन सा बड़ा ज्ञान है? Okay, all of us know don't cut trees. Even Ashoka knew don't cut trees. Our old civilizations knew don't cut trees. Okay, but when we discuss don't cut trees, there is a environmental angle. Okay, there is a moral, ethical angle. There is a political angle of human rights related to tribal population. So the beauty of some of these otherwise commonsensical topic is you have to link it with geographical concepts. Just say I gave the concept of human ecology. I gave the concept of ecumene, non-ecumene. A new term called as environmental determinism. The idea that distribution is a function of migration partly and partly because of natural growth rate. Okay, so these are the concepts your answer must have. Okay, so it's not about writing. ये बहुत important point है. एक है write a right answer. Okay, देखो right answer तो debate ही नहीं है. Okay, you cannot afford anything wrong. Right तो करना ही करना है. But the smart thing is write, okay, appropriate answer. This is the key word. Okay, appropriate का मतलब क्या है? The answer that the question deserves in the context of your subject. So if you have a geographical discussion on why people live where they live, then I want to see an answer that has ecumene, non-ecumene, environmental determinism, Aristotle, natural increase of population, migration as a factor. So this is what makes your answer a bit more interesting. Okay? So anyways, we have taken care of that population distribution. Distribution, I said, is a function of natural factors, which is said are important, but they are actually not the more important one. The more decisive ones are the factors which are human factors. Human factors linked to technology, colonization, a history, migration, conflicts. And a new insight was even government policies are important part of how people live where they live. Like, see, if Muhammad bin Tughlaq had succeeded to shift his capital from Delhi to Daulatabad, in all probability, Daulatabad would have become one of the big cities of India. It's a policy. He decided that hame ye karna hai. Why did Calcutta become what it is? Because it was a policy of the British colonial government that they wanted to have development around the ports. It's a policy. It's not that Calcutta was the only place where people could have lived. But they developed the ports, they developed infrastructure there, they had investments there, and Calcutta became what it has become today. So a lot of distribution is the consequence of policies, the government plans, the government's approach in encouraging or discouraging some locations for human habitation. So I have done this part. Then I was discussing what is the pattern. I haven't discussed kya factors hain. I discussed what are the patterns of distribution. In patterns, I discussed that look at the pattern from the areas which have the bulk of the population. So I mentioned Western Europe, Northeastern US, we have South Asia, we have Southeast Asia, and we have East Asia. ये मैंने use नहीं किया the term. These 5 are called as the primary pockets of population concentration. They're called as the primary pocket because this is where we have the bulk of the population. Western Europe has about 5 to 7% of the world's population, and it is declining. We start off now, all of you. Back to your notes now. Back to your notes and add some facts in last day's class. Ek suggestion hai, all of you online, offline, both of you. My suggestion number 1 is, if possible, beta, you don't need this, you're fine. Acha, theek hai, So, as far as possible, my suggestion is write in loose sheets. Why loose sheets? Because your notes will not be static notes. Aapke notes change honge. By the time you give examination, some content will change. You must change page, add page, remove page, add a diagram. In a spiral bound or notebook mein, wo change hota nahi hai. My suggestion, so if you can manage, the students tell me, sir, a paper kho jata hai. मैंने कहा ऐसे कैसे खो जाता है? No, it's not a useless thing कि आपने फेंक दिया. So if you are working hard, you will take care of it. So खो जाता है is a very bad excuse at this level of preparation. So if possible, write in loose sheets. Loose sheets, blank sheets, and margins on both sides. अभी से एक आदत डाल लो to start writing in the pages that you will write answers in. Sir, ruled mein handwriting is straight. अभी से सीखो. For 1 year, if you keep on writing on blank pages, आपका हाथ भी set हो जाएगा. ठीक है? That's one. Second suggestion to all of you is, bring the previous day's notes to the class. I might add something, modify some things. Sometimes I also miss out a fact. आपको add करवा देंगे हम आपको. ठीक है? So suggestion, this is your call. How you want to go about it. So in the last notes, add these, some facts. So Western Europe has about 5-7%, and this area is declining in population concentration. यहाँ पर लोग कम रहे हैं. Western Europe, so Britain, France, Germany, Netherlands, people are reducing. Okay, one big reason for reduction is that these areas have very low growth rates. Okay, not many children are being born here. Okay, not many children are preferred here. So these are areas that are shrinking. Northeastern US, okay, it's about 7 to 10%. Okay, I'm giving you very high level averages. Exact number, I don't care about it. You must have some idea, kitna zyada, kitna kam hai. Okay, Northeastern US, and this area has kind of maintained its numbers. If all the countries look at, US has been one of the most pragmatic, smart countries. They know when to call for people, they know when to stop people, they have encouraging migration policies. वो आपके visas वगैरह आते रहते हैं, change होते रहते हैं. They've been very, very smart. Okay, very, very pragmatic in ensuring that they do not have labor problems in their sectors. When they need more doctors, they call for more doctors without the cultural jingoism. They need more engineers, they call for more engineers without getting emotional about कि हमारे लोग ही रहेंगे यहाँ पर. That's one reason that makes America so vibrant and so resilient. ठीक है? Yeah, growth rate includes rates of fertility. Pragya, I'll be back on that. So note that Northeast US has about this much population, but it has maintained its numbers. South Asia, among the very large population, has about 25% of the world's population. Okay, and so does East Asia, again about 25% of the world's population. There are very big pockets in both areas. You know, okay, India dominates here, India and also Bangladesh for that matter, and here China dominates. Difference is that this area, okay, it is still growing. It's growing, but it is growing slowly. Okay, यहाँ पर लोग बढ़ रहे हैं. Bangladesh still has a high growth rate. So does India. It is slowing down. In this area, they are now stagnated and they are declining. Okay, Japan is declining. So is China. India has overtaken China 2023 May, April onwards. India has now become the largest country in terms of population. Okay, so ये points add कर लो. ठीक है, South Asia population is increasing, but it has slowed down. Okay, the growth rate has, but this still has a large population. East Asia has stagnated and is declining. Okay, and Southeast Asia has about 20% of the world's population. Okay, and it is also growing very slow. I would not say decline, it is growing slowly. So imagine, okay, these three pockets, okay, are the bulk of the world's population, right? So an important insight from this. लिख लिया आप all of it down here. So analysis में maybe write down now. Write down. So in the regional pattern, we call this as the regional pattern. In the regional pattern of population distribution, in the regional pattern of the population distribution, okay, most of the primary pockets, okay, have stagnated or have declining population. Most of the primary pockets have stagnation or declining population. Okay. South Asia and Southeast Asia. South Asia and Southeast Asia, okay, are still growing, but at a much reduced rate. They're still growing in terms of numbers, but at a much reduced rate. Okay, so the important conclusion here is that population distribution, write down, population distribution is impacted by three main factors. One is the long history. But जहाँ पर लोग ज़्यादा हैं, okay, that area will have more people because they are living for a longer time. So the distribution is impacted by number one, the long history. Okay, places which have a long history. South Asia, a long history of population. East Asia, long history of population. Americas, Australia, or Britain, they have got smaller, shorter histories. So long history is one reason why people have more. One, number two, the type of society. The type of society. Are they agrarian? Are they urbanized? Okay. Are they socially more developed in terms of women rights? Okay. What is the preference of a family as a part of the social system? जहाँ पर family institution collapses, it's no more important to get married, no more important to have children. Okay, so that's an important aspect of the social thinking. Why is Europe declining? यहाँ पर people believe we don't have to have families. Okay, you want children, you can have children. Okay, you don't have to have a commitment of a family home. Okay, that's one reason why we have declining birth rates. So in India, why we have high growth rates? One big reason is, okay, the universality of marriage. Right? Everybody has to get married. It's like a norm that we have. Not getting married is frowned upon. Okay, it gives a wrong morality sense that not marrying is bad. It's an ethical issue. Okay, and second is not just marriage. Children are equally important. Not having children is again considered to be a ill omen, a taboo. Okay, so universal marriage plus universal children, both are important part of India's society. Okay, that's why we have so many populations. Okay, so ये West में है नहीं. It's not there in the Western societies like the Western Europe and so on. Okay, so why we have population as a number one? The long history. The second is the type of society, and third is urbanization. Urbanization, economic prospects. Urbanization, economic prospects, and opportunities for growth. And opportunities for growth. Okay, this is what our original pattern of distribution tells us. Okay, right here, that this is also reflected in this pattern, or these factors are also reflected in, okay, the continental scale distribution of population. It is also reflected in the continental scale distribution of population. Quickly, continent pattern जो है, okay, Asia has slightly more than 60% of the world's population. Asia, understandable, right? Okay, if you look at China and South Asia itself, huge number. Okay, so Asia itself has more than 60-70% of the world's population. Okay, and Africa, okay, Africa has about 15 to 17% of the world's population. Africa has about 15, okay, to 16% of the world's population. Again, my reminder here, I don't care about exact numbers. Okay, अगर 55.7 तो मैंने 60 कह देना है इसको. It's around 48, 47, else is about 50 again. So round this off. Don't add up and say 100 हो रहा है नहीं हो रहा है. Yeah, Harshit, I'm aware of that. Okay, Hriday. So I just started revising the initial topics. Haven't done much there. You joined late. Fine. So Asia has this one, Africa this one. Then we have North America about 10%. North America about 10%, and Europe. Europe, it is less than 7% and is declining. Less than 7% and it is declining. In fact, let me keep it a bit more. You say Europe is not 7%, keep it at around 9 to 10%, and it is declining. North America 10% is almost 10, 12%, 11%, almost stagnant. Okay, Africa 60%, not a big change here. Okay, Africa is one continent which will change dynamics. Okay, so the factors of history. So have Asia में इतने लोग क्यों हैं? One big reason I said is Asia has a very long history. Asia has lot of agriculture and traditional societies. ठीक है? So Asia में, and of course don't forget the fact Asia is also large. It is a large continent. You're bound to have more people. The factors affecting the population, we can see the factors operating at a regional level and also operating at the continent scale level. So put a star mark and write down a bit about Africa. I'll come back again on this. Just know this. Okay. Africa has relatively less population. Given its size, Africa has relatively less population given its size, comma, its long history. Africa also has very old civilizations. Given its size, given its long history, and also given that it also is traditional and agrarian. It is also traditional society and also agrarian, as in agriculture, tribal societies. ठीक है? So हमें लगता है कि अफ्रीका में और लोग होने चाहिए थे. Like the reason is the long history of lack of development in Africa, where the death rates are very, very high. Unlike Asia, where India, China, Southeast Asia, they have managed their debts better. Our death rate is fairly low compared to what it's in Africa. So Africa should have had more people. It's a large continent. It has two very big old civilizations. The Nile Valley bhi tha, and we had one in Western Africa also. If you know about Mali, Timbuktu, it's a very old civilization. And you know about the man's origin. It all began from here. So Africa mein, it is a large continent. It has a very old civilizations. It also has traditional agrarian and tribal society, but is yahan pe itne log people hai nahi. The big reason is Africa for a long time has been very poor, a lack of development. It has lot of conflicts, tribal wars, colonization issues, poverty. It has hunger problems. It has famine problems. It has epidemics. If you know about Ebola virus, Western Africa mein, and South African regions mein, AIDS. It's a nation scale problem. So because of, I said, very high poverty, lack of development, conflicts, tribal conflicts, problems related to epidemics, hunger and famines. Africa has very high death rates. Africa has very high death rates. That's why the people in Africa are much lesser. But then once the conditions improve, and it will improve, we're optimistic here, Africa will start having more and more people. So Africa can be a small case study. Yes, old civilization. I said old civilization. Examples I said, one is Nile Valley civilization, very old. Again, second is a West African civilization. West African civilization. नहीं इसको ठीक है लिख लो अलग से. We also have this Abyssinia. Abyssinia, A-B-Y, S-I-S-S-I-N-I-A. Abyssinia. Anybody knows what is Abyssinia? Abyssinia कौन सा एरिया है? Ethiopia, yes. Abyssinia, Ethiopia, correct. It's a very old society. One of the earliest forms of Christianity, Islam. And Ethiopia has always been one of the most prosperous ones. Pehle, now they have declined. So yes, you can add Abyssinia, fine. Abyssinia, I said Nile Valley civilization, West African civilizations. So Africa में old civilization रहे हैं. And don't discount the fact this man's origin began from here. Suraj, ऐसा नहीं है. He says much of Africa is not habitable. ऐसा नहीं है. Okay, good parts of Africa is habitable. Good soil, good rainfall भी है. You also have good conditions related to growing seasons. The problem is poverty, exploitation. The problem is problems of corruption, conflicts, okay, epidemics, poverty. Okay, that's why Africa has not been a major one. But in the future, we say Africa can emerge as a very large, important region of the world. Okay? How is the population distributed? Any questions on this, anybody? Any doubts on this? Okay, so I've discussed two things. I've discussed the regional pattern of primary distribution, or primary pockets rather. Primary pockets. I've discussed this. I've discussed the continental scale distribution. Continental scale distribution. Okay, and third you can add now is now you can that there are more local and more concentrated smaller pockets. There are more local and more concentrated smaller pockets of population. We call this as the secondary and tertiary pockets. So we have the primary pockets, okay, the 5 regions I mentioned, the continents bata diya aapko, the local and the more concentrated smaller pockets, we call these as the secondary and the tertiary pockets. Now, these pockets are more localized. They are more localized, okay, such as around a major city, okay, along a major river, can also be along a major transport route. Okay, think of Mexico. Mexico is a large country, not many people, but a huge concentration in the capital called as Mexico City. And Mexico City is among the top 5 cities of the world. Okay? That's around a city. Or think of Sao Paulo. Brazil में ज़्यादा लोग थोड़ी हैं. The entire Brazil population is less than the population of UP. Okay. UP में कितने लोग हैं? About 200 million is the population of UP. Brazil का इससे कम है. Right? But there one city, Sao Paulo, is a very large city. Okay? So I'm discussing the local and the more concentrated, smaller concentration pockets. The more concentrated, smaller concentration pockets. You have to be alert right as I speak. Pockets which are the secondary concentrations and the tertiary concentrations. And where are they? They can be localized around okay, a major city. Example I gave you was Mexico City. Mexico City, or I said think of Sao Paulo, okay, or think of southeastern Australia. Australia से Melbourne है, not very far away, Sydney है. Okay, southeastern Australia is a small area, okay, around some city. Mexico City, Sao Paulo, okay, then or maybe along a major river. Think of along a river Nile. Egypt doesn't have much population. Along river Nile we have almost more than 90% of people living okay, of Egypt. Okay? So river Nile is one along the river. वैसे ही in South America we have a river Paraguay. The very large river of okay, South America. River Paraguay is called a river Paraguay Parana system. P-A-R-A-N-A, Parana system. Okay. This one has lot of population. वैसे ही if you look at in Russia along river Volga, the longest river of Russia is the river Volga. It originates from somewhere southwestern Russia, and it drains into the Caspian Sea. Okay, river Volga has a lot of population along this. And in Southeast Asia, if you look at the river called as Mekong River, okay, from Tibet originate karke drains into parts of Cambodia and Vietnam, Cambodia to be more precise. Okay, so these are population concentrations along a river. Then we can have population along some major transport route. Like say in Canada we have what's called as the Trans-Canadian Railway. Along this you have got a lot of people living. Trans-Canadian Railway. Okay. In Europe we have this river called as a Danube River. This river bhi hai. It's also a major waterway also. Danube River. A Danube River waterway. Or we can talk about a river, a Rhine waterway. So people living along a major a transportation corridor. Along river Danube waterway, D-A-N-U-B-E. D-A-N-U-B. Danube, the longest river of Western Europe if I ignore Russia. River Danube, a river Rhine, this is in Germany largely. Okay, a Trans-Canadian Railway. Where we also have a Trans-Australian Railway. From Perth to Sydney. We have a Trans-Australian Railway. Yes, you're right. Also, the Trans-Siberian Railway also has a lot of population, correct? Okay. So people live along a railway line, along a major waterway transport corridor, in some cities. Okay. We call these as secondary and tertiary pockets of population. So, and यहाँ पर क्यों रहते हैं? Because these are the areas that are advantageous, either physically or because economic activities. Write down these secondary and tertiary pockets. These secondary and tertiary pockets are examples of. These secondary and tertiary pockets are examples of. Okay. Natural physical conditions, or economic advantages, that allow for people to concentrate. All done here? So I think you have a very nice range of examples now. Okay. Dekho, examination mein, one point here. Listen, examination mein, you can't add everything down. But if you know 10 things, you can write 2-3 of them. Okay. They allow for people to concentrate. Harshit. So have a range of information, then play with it. Star example yaad nahi aayega. Jo yaad aayega likh lein aap. ठीक है? Okay, let's move on. Now, next is how do we measure? How do we measure population distribution? How do we measure population distribution? What are the matrices? What are the mathematical indices? Yes, Nimish, you're right. The factors can be because of soil, tourism, place, go on there, Ritika, what did you miss? Major city. Yeah, major city is a localized factor. Mexico City essentially was a lake. Around that lake, people have developed. Okay, you want some ठीक है. So in case of localized ones, okay, जो cities हैं, okay, cities, why there could have been lakes. जैसे Mexico city is actually a lake around which people have concentrated. They can be oases, जैसे कि रियाद है. Okay, today Riyadh is much bigger. Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, it's an oasis, a source of water है यहाँ पर. Okay, that's why. Okay, or if you look at Sao Paulo, Sao Paulo is a port. Okay, a very good port in South America around which people have concentrated. If you look at again Bangkok, for example, Bangkok is again a port. Okay, a port on a river. The river is called as Menam River. It's a port. So जहां पर भी advantages हैं, like Singapore. Okay, Singapore का कोई advantage नहीं है, except that it's a port. Singapore has a huge population. So either it is some natural factor or some economic factor where people will start concentrating. Riyadh is the capital of Saudi Arabia. It was an oasis. Of course, it is much, much larger than oasis today, but that's where it all began. Okay, let's move on now. So now, how do we measure distribution? Okay, so we measure distribution. The most common one is the density measure. Okay, how do you calculate density? This is the total population divided by the total area of whatever scale you're studying. Density at the level of a country, density at the level of a state. Okay, that's your choice. Density is the population divided by area. This is the most common. This is the most common measure. Okay, this is a measure of the population pressure on land. Okay, कि land में कितना pressure है? How many people live per square area or per square kilometer? Is a measure of the population pressure on the land. ये सबसे common है. Okay, and इसके अलग variants हैं. Like one variant is called as the physiological density. In some books, they also mention this as the nutritional density. One variant of density is the physiological density, also called as the nutritional density. This is the total population divided by the total agricultural land. Right? The total population divided by total agricultural land. Okay. Now see, let me explain this to you. Again, the primary purpose of density is to tell us how many people live in a square area, okay, and that tells us us land pe how much demands are we making. Okay, so when I use agricultural land as the land unit, then I'm talking about what is the pressure of population on the agricultural land. Okay, think of Egypt. Egypt is a very large country. Egypt is a very large country. Okay, and we have this a river called as River Nile. Egypt is largely a desert. It has a very narrow agriculture stretch along the River Nile. बहुत narrow है. So if you look at the total density, okay, the total population by density, it does not look like Egypt is crowded. Large country and not too many people there. But if you calculate the physiological density, you'll find out that it has very less agricultural land. So the total density is not very high, but the physiological is very, very high. Okay, so this tells us that this country may be large, but it has limits in terms of its agricultural resources. So for economies which are agrarian, economies which are farming, economies which are agriculture based, वहां पर this is a very important measure. How much pressure are we having on the agricultural lands? Around 2 points. That the physiological density is a measure of, physiological density is a measure of the pressure on agricultural land. The measure of pressure on agricultural land. It is a good measure. It is a good measure for economies, good measure for economies that are agrarian and have high dependence on cultivation. Economies that are agrarian and have high dependence on cultivation. For example, Egypt has a very low overall population, has a very low overall population density, implying it's a large country with lesser population. It is a large country with lesser population. But its physiological density is very, very high. Its physiological density is very, very high. Implying it has very limited cultivable agricultural land. It has very limited cultivable agricultural land. Countries with very high physiological densities. Countries with very high physiological densities includes Bangladesh, Singapore, most of the North African countries, whereas countries like the US, Russia, Australia have low physiological densities. They have low physiological densities. Australia में ठीक ठाक agricultural lands हैं and the people are less. Russia, the vast areas called as Russian steppes. Steppes are good grasslands for cultivation. So put a star mark here down. Their physiological density is a good way of ascertaining or finding out if a country is over or underpopulated. If a country is over or underpopulated with respect to agricultural land. With respect to agricultural land. ये important question है ना कि is India overpopulated? Right? So we talk about overpopulation as a concept always in relationship to resources कितना है आपके पास. Okay, imagine the large Canadian region. Okay, अगर Canada में you don't have much resources. Okay, whatever less people it has is overpopulation. So compare Ladakh. Ladakh is a large territory. बहुत कम लोग हैं. Okay, so on the face of it, Ladakh looks less populated. But compare Ladakh with क्या resources हैं? What agricultural resources? What water resources? So there, even one population is a huge pressure. Let's compare with Bihar or Bengal or UP. Even if they have more people, but because they have lot of agricultural land, entire UP is agricultural land, entire Bihar is agricultural land. So imagine, so if I say Brazil, 200 million population, I say UP, 200 million population. अब क्या लगता है, which country or which region now looks overpopulated? Brazil. Reason being, Brazil does not have much of agricultural land. Okay, so overpopulation or underpopulation is not so much in terms of how many people we have. It's like one room has 1,000 people. Another room has maybe 20 people. So which room is crowded? That depends on seats कितने हैं बताओ. 20 people, seats are 5. Definitely crowding is here. For 1,000 people, seats आपके पास 1,500 seats हैं. Not crowded here. Okay, so this is always a debate. Is India over or underpopulated? So we talk in terms of resources, we talk in terms of agriculture, mineral source for that matter. India actually does not have overpopulation. But yes, parts of India, जैसे Delhi NCR, yes, overcrowding है. Parts of Mumbai, overcrowding है. Kolkata has overcrowding. But India at large, we say, अगर resources देखेंगे, the problem of India is not more people. The problem is more of less educated people, more of less skill trained people, less of people with good employment prospects. That's the problem. So these ratios are one way of discussing whether the area has pressure on the land or not. Is it okay, all of you here? All of you? There are two lines on this. There are two lines. That physiological density is a good measure. Is a good measure of population pressure. Is a good measure of population pressure. But its relevance is limited. Because it is more about agricultural potential of a region, which is not the only resource a region can talk about. Which is not the only resource the region can talk about. So if we compare, watch here. In India, the arithmetic or the density of India is about rounded off to around 400. Is actually 380 something, round off this much. अगर आप जापान देखोगे, Japan has a density of around 350, again about 400. Okay. But if you compare the physiological density, okay, Japan ka density is more than 3,000 and India's is about 2,000 something. Okay, so in terms of, okay, the density is comparable. But if you go look at the agricultural resource, India is definitely more comfortable than Japan. Japan में agricultural land है ही नहीं almost. No, it's about 800 if I'm not wrong. It's about less than 1,000. But then the argument is, अब Japan agrarian society है नहीं ना. Japan is not agricultural society, right? In that sense, we say, again, this is a wrong misnomer. Japan's population has moved towards manufacturing, services sector. That's why the debate of, okay, whether a region is over or underpopulated, okay, it depends on what resources are you calculating. Okay? Write down something, write down. For example, a little example. For example, okay, India's total density, we also call this as arithmetic density. जो पहला वाला discussion था ना, the first one. Okay, this is also called as arithmetic density. Arithmetic density also. The पहला वाला था. First. This one, second is physiological. Okay, just forgot one name there. So, for example, India's arithmetic density is very comparable to that of Japan. India's arithmetic density is very comparable to that of Japan. But in terms of physiological density, okay, pressure on Japanese agricultural land is more than 3 times that of India. The pressure on agricultural land is more than 3 times that of India. India, Japan, this is arithmetic density, this is a physiological density. India का है approximately I said 380, 400 रखो. All the sample survey says ये बढ़ के 450 हो चुका है. But see, I'm looking at a census 2011. Okay, इसी range में है. And Japan का around 300, 350 है. Fairly comparable. Physiological में India का less than 1,000 है. And Japan का approximately, I said, 3,000. Okay? Yeah, Bhumika is asking me, can we say having large agricultural land reduces pressure of population? Now, batao, what do you think now? Does having large agricultural land, okay, reduce the pressure of population? Yes or no? Yes, it does. But that's again a very superficial level of discussion. When you say large agricultural land, एक important question है कि बताओ economy कैसा है पहले बताओ. Okay, if economy is not agrarian, it doesn't matter agricultural land है या नहीं है. Think of Singapore. Singapore is not an agrarian economy. So नहीं भी है agricultural land, doesn't matter. Okay. One. Number two, land बहुत है. What about ownership? It's possible that few people own the entire land and the bulk of the people don't own the land. ये भी possible है. Maybe I have lot of land, but I have not developed my farming systems. India में बहुत land है, but the fact is our productions is not commensurate with what my land can produce. So having more land, okay, is fine, one factor to say the pressure looks less, but it is not necessary the pressure is actually less. Compare India and Finland. Who do you think has more agricultural land? India. But who do you think has better job of equity and development? Finland. So ये सब debates हैं. Okay, we'll enter that eventually. At this level, we say, okay, agriculture land is one resource based on which I can compare, okay, whether a region has more or less pressure. But having enough land is not the only criteria. It depends on the type of economy. It also depends on the ownership of the land. Who owns how much land and what type of land. It also depends on what am I doing with that type of agricultural land. A compare करें ना, Pakistan has a very good range of agricultural land, but not done a great work in terms of agriculture development and equitable development. India में agricultural land that we are actually farming is about 142 million hectares. Okay, for a country like India, it's a huge number. Okay, India is the world's 7th largest country. Okay, and more than half of India is agricultural land. China, okay, has only 90 million hectares of agricultural land. Who has done better for agriculture, India or China? So having enough land is not enough. You must develop it, use it, and also ensure more equitable ownership. Okay? Fine, you've asked this question to me. Now, see, this is where the depth starts coming in. Okay, discuss whether India has more or less population. It's a very nice conversation we have. Now, see, it's a political game going on. India has more people reduce population. Okay, it's one political game going on. The reality is, India में actually problem है. Our TFR has come down to almost 2.1. In good parts, southern India, TFR has fallen to 1.8. बहुत dangerous levels हैं ये. Okay, but then the political game is different. You know the conversation differently. So India does not have the problem of overpopulation. India has the problem of development standards. ठीक है. You asked me the question. So ये हो गया आपका point लिख लिया आप लोगों ने? Write down. Okay. This is a debate type. Put a star mark and write down. So whenever your notes has a star mark, means it has some important fact or some important insight. Okay. Write down one insight here. Star mark लिखो. Write down here. That population pressure in terms of presence or absence of population pressure in terms of presence or absence of agricultural land. Presence or absence of agricultural land is, however, not the only measure. However, is not the only measure or the adequate measure. Is not the only measure or the adequate measure of population pressure in a region. Is not the only measure and is not the adequate measure of population pressure in a region. It also depends on the type of the economy. It also depends on the type of the economy. Whether agrarian or non-agrarian economy. Whether agrarian or non-agrarian economy. जापान में हम कह तो रहे हैं कि बहुत प्रेशर है, but Japan is not an agricultural nation. ठीक है? Okay. That's one type of economy. And number two is, okay, agricultural development and agricultural asset ownership. Agricultural development and agricultural assets ownership also matters. When I say agricultural asset का मतलब क्या है? Land, water, forest. Who owns it? Who owns the land? Who owns the forests? Who owns the water? वो भी important factor है, whether the pressure is more or less. Okay, so debate is physiological density a good measure of distribution or not? ये आपका आंसर बनेगा. Yes, it is better than the crude density, but still not the best measure to deal with population pressure. हाँ, बताना है कि कहाँ कितने लोग रहते हैं, that's okay, fine. But in terms of pressure of population, this is not the best measure. Okay, and इसी में add कर लो, for example, same point. For example, while India has more than 140 million hectares of net sown area, while India has 140 more than 140 million hectares of net sown area, okay, and China has 90 million hectares. So almost 1.5 times of China हमारे पास है. China has about 90 million hectares. But okay, China has done a better work in agriculture development. China has done a better work in agricultural development. So population pressure on agricultural resources. So population pressure on agricultural resources in China is lesser than that of India. Population pressure on agricultural resources is lesser in China than on India, despite the fact India having a better physiological density, having a more favorable physiological density. Despite India having a more favorable physiological density. ठीक है? So एक टॉपिक है सिलेबस में, the concept of overpopulation and underpopulation. ये सब उसमें आ जाएगा. Thus preserving some for some other topic discussion, but ठीक है, you asked me, so I've discussed. So within bracket to mention this point. Now this conversation or this discussion is part of over or underpopulation concept. This is part of over or underpopulation concept. Yes, Harshit, correct. Land fragmentation भी issue है. Agriculture modernization is an issue. Agriculture diversification भी issue है. There are many other things there. Yes, Pravash. Okay, land ownership is a very important factor. India has lot of inequality, okay, in land ownership. ये क्या question है? Pratik, best book for oceanography. You catch me. Okay, Pratik Singh Dhoni. फिर तो आपका question legitimate question है. Okay, we cannot change, mess with the Dhoni as a name. तो oceanography के लिए best book तो नहीं है. The most relevant book is Savindra Singh by Oceanography. But I don't know why that's troubling you right now. हम land पे हैं अभी. Piyush, what was that? How much time it takes to prepare for UPSC completely? Okay, to be very honest, it takes about 1.5 to 2 years. If you join Edukemy, I can do it faster. Piyush, these questions tell me, abhi aap soch rahe ho. Okay. And you're saying you are in first year of college. Okay, fine, theek hai. Allowed. Okay. Questions are allowed, no issues. Nice pitch, okay. धोनी थे तो एक खेलना था फ्रंट फुट में ना, छोड़ थोड़ी देंगे हम. One helicopter shot बीच में. Yes, I mean this is honest. You have to be ready for 1.5 years. Okay, because see, one stage of preparation is know the concepts, jaan lo concepts. Second is you internalize it and start using it. That takes some more time. You know a concept is not same as writing about it. If you look at the previous notes, ये discussions उस notes में नहीं होगा. Because nobody asked me the question, as simple as that. Somebody asks me, then I can develop it a bit more for you. Okay? Anyway, let's not bother about that right now. We'll go on that slowly, gradually. Okay? So I think you understand the distribution aspects for the world at large. क्या pattern है, क्या reasons हैं, and some discussion beyond that. Okay. Now come to density and distribution for India. So I'm switching gears. I moved from paper 1 towards paper 2 now. Now I'll keep doing this. I'll take up a concept for paper 1 and map it with paper 2. So these topics, paper 1, paper 2, साथ पढ़ना please. Okay, not that कि paper 1 खत्म करके then paper 2. Do it together. Okay, so fine. So about India's distribution, take it as facts. 1, 2, 3, 4 points. Okay. The first point is India has about 17 to 18% of the world's population. 17 to 18% of the world's population in about 2.4% area of the world's land. Okay, it's a very famous number that we have. We have about 17 to 18% of the world's population and in about 2.4% of the world's land. That's one fact. The second fact is, okay, India is the largest country in terms of size of population. India is the largest country in terms of size of population and the 7th largest in terms of land area. And 7th largest in terms of land area. Third, by this, India seems to have above average population concentration. India seems to have above average population concentration compared to most countries of the world. Compared to most countries of the world. Next, the reasons for high population base in India. The reasons for high population base in India. क्या reasons हैं? Okay. Factors natural, good soils, good water, large rivers, monsoon climate. Okay. All of these favors. Almost 80% of India's land is capable of agricultural production. इतना percent किसी country में नहीं है. Why does India have above average concentration? Why? Because India has good soils. India has good amount of water resources in the form of rivers. Like India has good rains. India has good monsoon systems. Monsoon helps in agriculture. India is a tropical country. Warm hai with a long growing season. India is a tropical country. Okay. So in India, almost 80% of land is capable of agricultural production. It's capable of agricultural production. And India has more than 10% of the world's most fertile land. India has almost 10% of the world's most fertile land. Okay? That's enormous. I mean, northern plains. Okay, though we call this as the Ganga Yamuna basin. Okay, this east-west. Okay, it's about 3,000 kilometers, and 3,000 kilometers of very good fertile land. ऐसा stretch किसी country में नहीं है. Okay, so this is one of the major civilization basins of the world. Okay, the enormous amount of, so physical factors definitely are very, very favorable. Okay, but then there are human factors which have been more important. Okay, so don't forget the four important human factors. One is a very long history of habitation. More than 4,000 years, okay, of uninterrupted, okay, civilizations. More than 4,000 years of uninterrupted civilizations. People have been living here for a long, long time. Okay, so that's one reason. A second human factor, okay, of course, is agrarian society, which is also traditional society, and it has had higher growth rates, okay, for a longer time. Okay, because देखो agriculture में क्या होता है? In agriculture, see, one debate we had in essay also, that why in agriculture we have higher growth rates? Why? Because agriculture is a labor-intensive work. You need more hands to work. You need more physical people to work. Okay, so in societies which are agrarian, they tend to favor more and more people. The more agricultural hand I have, the more farming I can do. Or agricultural processes mein, the male labor is more favored labor. Okay, that's why somewhere our patriarchal mindset comes from our agricultural history also. And this is true for all over the world. But as economies change away from agriculture, your mindset starts changing. The more and more mechanizations we have, again your mind will start changing there. That takes time. So any society which has been agrarian, which is based on a traditional mindset, wahan par you'll have higher growth rate. Yes, you know the term. These societies are called as, okay, a pro-natalist. Correct. Natal means a child. Okay, neonatal means a child. Pro-natalist का मतलब है, these societies tend to favor more children. हमारे आशीर्वाद ऐसे ही होते हैं ना, फलो फूलो आशीर्वाद होता है हमारा. Okay, आप हो और आपके साथ 100 आए साथ में, right? So our societies tends to encourage higher birth rates, more children, more male population. So we call these societies as pro-natalist. That's why India has more population, more agriculture, more traditional. अच्छा, इसके ऊपर में India also has a higher poverty. Okay, more poverty, the problems of healthcare, problems of lack of education, okay, problems related to, okay, income issues. Even this can result in higher growth rates. So more poverty, agrarian systems, long population history, this has encouraged these factors. These have encouraged higher growth rates. So India has more population. Okay. Yes, you can add that. This factor, because favorable tha, it encouraged higher in-migration into the country. Correct? India में hardly कोई original है. The only people who are original are probably some of the most primitive tribes. Who came first? In Andaman, Nicobar Islands, in parts of central hills maybe. In Himalayas, some of them have remained there maybe. Otherwise, India has always been a land where we have more and more migrants. Everybody. Those who say they are the owners, basically they came first, that's all. Like Donald Trump, he's anti-migration. But the fact is, he himself is a migrant. Right? His father was a German. His wife is, his wives, have been migrants. It's just that he came first. Who comes afterwards? Then are foreigners. Right? So this history of favorable conditions, it attracts more population, and so does the agrarian base. Why does India have more population? All fine? Agriculture ke pehle kya point? This is long history of habitation. Shubham, long history of habitation. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on. Then in India we have, average density of, average arithmetic density of, average arithmetic density is about 380, 400 people per square kilometer. According to 2011 census, the average arithmetic density of India is around 380 to 400 people per square kilometers. But like I said, काफी साल हो चुका है. We should have had one more census. So we have certain small census called as sample surveys. Sample surveys tell us that this has now probably become almost 450. But आप ये लिखो आप, more or less is fine, no issues. Nobody cut marks if you write down this range here. Okay, that's one fact. Another fact is, India has lot of regional variations in population distribution. India has lot of regional variations in population distribution. Okay, so number one, there is a north-south divide. There is a north-south divide. Northern states have more population. Northern states have more population, almost more than 65% of India's population. Almost more than 65% of India's population. Okay, within bracket because of more agricultural resources, better land, more fertile soils, more water. Southern India is more mountainous, more hilly. Like India has a north-south divide. Okay, that's one. Number two, states of UP, Bihar, West Bengal, states of UP, Bihar, West Bengal, Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh. UP, Bihar, Bengal, Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh have more than 50% of India's population. Have more than 50% of India's population. It tells us two things. One is, जहां पर ज्यादा agricultural है, वहां पर ज्यादा लोग हैं. But number two, wherever we have got more development also, we have got more people. Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh are among the more developed states of India. Okay, so approximately this is the pattern distribution. Likha aapne all of you? The 5 states have. Okay, next slide down. UP has about 200 million population. About 200 million population. That's almost 1/5 to 1/6 of India's population. 1/5 to 1/6 of India's population. So you talk in terms of population, India actually has two prime ministers. One sits in Delhi, other sits in Lucknow. He may come from Gorakhpur, alag baat hai, right? So I mean, you are heading, okay, India's 1/5 population is a huge number. What is India for the world? UP is for India, right? They say any parameter, अगर यूपी में ठीक नहीं है ना, पूरा इंडिया गड़बड़ा देगा वो. Okay, one UP अगर मूड खराब हो गया, you know, you are done. All data will go down the drain. Okay, it's understandable. Why? Because the kind of population we have for UP, one of the largest states of India. Right next. The state of Rajasthan is the largest in terms of area. The state of Rajasthan is largest in terms of area, but it has less than 5% of India's population. It has less than 5% of India's population. Okay, because Rajasthan has, okay, relatively, okay, not as good agricultural conditions. Because Rajasthan has relatively not as good agricultural conditions. Deserts, hot conditions, droughts, rivers, again, not very large rivers of Rajasthan. Okay. Next, head down. The smallest states in terms of population. The smallest states in terms of population are Himachal Pradesh, Sikkim, and Arunachal Pradesh. Are Himachal Pradesh, Sikkim, and Arunachal Pradesh. All three hill regions, all three are hill regions with adverse natural factors. With adverse natural factors. Next. The urban areas of India, Himachal Pradesh, Bhumika. Himachal Pradesh में area है, a district called as Lahore Spiti region. They have one of the least densities, okay, in Himachal Pradesh. Okay, next round. हम states बात करें, so I'm ignoring Ladakh. Ladakh is not a state yet. Okay, in terms of states, these three have a bit less of population. Himachal Pradesh, Sikkim, and Arunachal Pradesh. Okay, next head down. That urban areas of India are high population concentration regions. Are high population concentration regions. With cities like Delhi NCR, having population density of more than 10,000 people per square kilometer. Having density of more than 10,000 people per square kilometer. Next, more than 1/3 population of India, lives in its urban areas. Okay. So, and urbanization is one of the fastest. Urbanization is one of the fastest, okay, in the world. The urbanization rate in India is one of the fastest in the world. Okay, so anybody, what does the word urbanization mean? Anybody? पहले ये बताओ, urbanization is a positive concept or a negative concept? Positive concept. Okay. So what does urbanization mean? ये लिखो नहीं. Let me discuss first. वापस आएंगे पॉइंट्स में. Okay, so what's the meaning of the term urbanization? What do we understand? Basically, the sectors which are urban sectors are growing faster, right? So manufacturing, okay, fine. What else? Can you simplify? अब कुछ कहना चाह रहे हो? I understand that. But if your friends, can you simplify? What is urbanization? Not what's an urban area. The process of shifting of people from rural to urban. Priyamada says good health, okay, fine. Good education amenities. High quality of life is urbanization. Okay, fine. Migration from rural to cities. Okay. Low primary activities. Yeah, fine. ठीक है. Yes.
Development on different levels, that is economic, society, environment and industrial.
Essentially quality of life की बात कर रहे हैं आप. Urbanization is non-agricultural activities. Urbanization is tertiary activities and so on. Yes, somebody raise your hand. People living in town and cities. ठीक है, fine. Okay, now listen to this. There is a qualitative concept of what urbanization is, quality of life. So when we say high urbanization, one is the quality of life is improving. Some have said this, good jobs, a better environment, more amenities, more infrastructure, that's one. Second is a quantity aspect. When more and more people live in urban areas, we say we have more urbanization. Okay, so there are two aspects of this. But traditionally, when I use the word urbanization, I only mean how many people live in urban areas. That's all. Okay, so while I can discuss and go deeper, let's say, okay, are you educated or not? There is a quality aspect. Your thinking, your mindset, your choice of quality of life, how are you developed, how educated you are. Second can be simply, okay, by padhna likhna aata hai ki nahi? In India's definition, it is any person above 10 years age or 7 years of age who can write his or her name in the vernacular language. आप नाम लिख लेते हो, you are educated, literate person, right? So know this, okay? When I use the word urbanization without qualifying it, अगर मैं qualify नहीं किया, it only means number of people living in urban areas. It is not talking about quality of life. In that sense, we say urbanization in India is not a positive concept. It only tells us that more and more people are leaving rural areas, coming and living in urban areas. Doesn't tell us about कहाँ रहते हैं, slums में या proper housing में. Doesn't tell us about whether they have drinking water or not. Doesn't tell us about whether they have sanitation ability or infrastructure or not. It doesn't tell us about the type of urban poverty we have. So urbanization, okay, in that sense is actually a negative concept. When I say India has a rapid urbanizing society, it's a negative concept. It only means we are having a rural depopulation and we have urban crowding with rapid decline of urban quality of life. Okay, most of us probably have better environment in the villages, clean air, better water, more open areas, than what kind of life we have in urban areas. But why are we running to urban areas? Because of jobs nahi hai, right? Most of us, when I say poverty in India, हमें कौन दिखाई देता है? गरीब आदमी, farmer होगा, in the village area, living in kacha houses maybe. ये तो image में है ना, right? We don't have the idea that poverty can also mean urban poverty, and that's more debilitating. Urban poverty में quality of life is pathetic. Many of the urban poverty is because of refugees also who are escaping persecution or poverty. Refugees who have got no control on the rights. The most exploited population that we have. Okay. और वो तो डेटा में दिखाई नहीं देगा. So if I'm an illegal refugee, मैं जाके बोलूंगा कि I'm a migrant. You come for sense or hide, छुप जाऊंगा मैं. The police will say, ठीक है, इतने पैसे मिलेंगे, तो I will not add your name in the refugee because they will get exploited ultimately. If I'm escaping poverty, persecution, I've crossed the border illegally, I will never tell the data also कि I'm living. So urban poverty data में दिखता नहीं है. If I ask you, tell me a list of poverty programs in India. Okay, you'll talk about lot of programs, सारा targeted towards rural poverty. अगर मैं बताऊंगा, बताओ एक urban poverty का program बताओ, आपको याद भी नहीं होगा. Because in urban data, poverty दिखाई नहीं देता. Who'll capture it? Most of them are illegal migrants. We call that as invisible poverty. They live as unwelcome guests. They work in informal sector. No wage. And if I have a hotel, I have a cheap labor. Okay. मैंने उसका नाम रिकॉर्ड में एंटर भी नहीं करना है. All that insurance program, कुछ नहीं मिलने वाला उसको. So in India, in many developing countries, urbanization, okay, is called as dysfunctional urbanization. Okay. So I hope you understand now that urbanization is not always about quality of life. So if I look at India's population distribution, we find a huge population is concentrating towards urban areas. India has high rates of urbanization, but that is not something we have to be proud about. It only means, okay, urban area में गरीबी है. But imagine what type of poverty we have in villages where people are running even from there. Okay, कि ठीक है urban area जाके I might get exploited, but कम से कम job तो मिलेगा. I'm sure you hear about stories about those young girls from tribal pockets who get exploited in Delhi, NCR, Gurgaon, in Mumbai. सुना होगा आपने? They're locked up in the house. You tell me, which parent will want his or her son or daughter to go like this and work in urban areas? Who will want to give themselves also? क्या हो कि I'll work in your house without any paperwork? कितनी गरीबी होती होगी सोचो आप. Right? So urbanization in India is not something to be proud about. It only tells us the level of economic inequalities we have, the levels of rural poverty we have that people are escaping. That was our conversation discussion here. That in India, we have more than 1/3 population living in urban areas. India has very high rates of urbanization. Okay, this population concentration pattern is indicative of. Likho. I hope all fine here. Okay, I don't know. Some of you joined geography to study climate, mountains, landforms. Sir, क्या पढ़ा रहे हो आप? ये कहाँ से आ गया है? तो sociology लग रहा है. Wait for me, teach economy. Sir, ये तो economics पढ़ा रहे हो आप. Then I'll talk politics. Okay, geography में सब कुछ है. Okay, geography is anything related to what man does. Okay, so welcome to geography. ठीक है? And I think देखो ये ऐसे topics हैं, whether I teach or not, you should know this. You need this in your GS papers, in essay conversations. Okay, these are topics of your GS paper too, but nobody will teach you because time नहीं होता. So see all of this as an advantage to use in your GS. It's सारा geography. I said if you leave some topics of geomorphology छोड़ दो, some topics of climatology छोड़ दो, the rest of entire geography is GS relevant. When you go for paper 2 in GS, ये पढ़ के जाना. Population, quickly overthrew, particularly poverty, inequality, and so on. ठीक है? Okay, so I was discussing that क्या लिखा आपने sentence? Yes, India's urbanization is one of the first in the world. Write down that this pattern of population distribution, this pattern of population distribution is actually symptomatic of unequal development, rural poverty. It is symptomatic of unequal development, rural poverty and urban crowding with low quality of life in urban areas. Rapidly increasing, next sentence, rapidly increasing urbanization as a part of population distribution, okay, is because of rapid decline of rural economies. It's because of rapid decline of rural economies and therefore rural out migrations. So we have a system of how we classify cities in India. I'll be back again while discussing settlement geography. If you have heard about, there is class 1 city. Okay, cities with a population more than 1 lakh. We call these as a lakh plus population. Okay. Then we have class 2 cities which have 50,000, say 1 lakh population. Say 1, 2, 3, class 6 tak hai. Okay. What we find is class 1, 2 and 3. Okay. These are growing faster than the smaller towns and villages. Class 6 are the small villages. Okay, which means that some large cities, they are growing very fast and the small towns are now getting depopulated. It's a bad thing. You ultimately will have more and more pressure on urban population and the villages will lose their propensity of agriculture economy. Nothing can be more unfortunate than the agriculture economy does not have people to work in. Okay, you'll not have food production, you'll have problems of sustainability in terms of cheap labor in agriculture sector. Uska alag issues hai. Right down here that the large cities, class 1 and 2, the large cities, class 1 cities, class 2 cities are growing rapidly at the cost of smaller towns and villages. All good? Okay, so I have taken care of distribution. So one of you was asking me repeatedly, what about India when I began the class? I ignored you. Okay, I hope you have got my answer now. Okay, but I know padhana hai, but when, let me decide that. So poverty initiatives, yes, absolutely Bhumika. Okay, in fact, a very famous statement hai, that if you want to have developed cities, you must work on developing villages. Okay, something called as Pura word was given by our late President Abdul Kalam. He said, provision of urban areas in rural, urban amenities in rural areas. जो amenities urban areas में है, jobs, schools, health, infrastructure should be in the villages. If you want good, vibrant cities, then develop a village is more important. Otherwise, what happens is, you keep developing the city becomes more attractive, and more people will come here. Okay, you have a good road, okay, more and more people will come and occupy the roads. So if you ignore villages, your cities will always have problems. आप जितना भी wide कर लो roads, okay, the roads of the cities will never be enough. The more housing you have here, the villagers will come and live here more. Okay, that's why you need to have, okay, the balance in terms of development. Yes, Soumya, you're right. The development programs in the villages are definitely as important, if not more important, than what we have in the urban areas. True India lives in the villages. That's where we have to focus on. Okay, so I've taken care of distribution. Now let us open up your textbooks, please. I'm expecting you all to have your Majid Hussain textbook. Okay. अगर नहीं है तो note कर लो. Like I know some of you, the books will take some time to reach you, remote areas में. Okay. Otherwise, I know it's not possible har bar, but let's do some reading now. Which book? It is Human Geography by Majid Hussain. Okay, this is the book. I have the 5th edition. Okay, and you can buy the 6th one. Zyada difference nahi in terms of the page numbers. I'll let you know which is what then. Okay, let's start off. So, page number 1. Page 1. Absolutely. Books are very, very important. Without the books, the concepts will never get consolidated. Your choice आप कब करना चाह रहे हो? Okay, अभी कर लो कि life is manageable. Otherwise करना second, third attempt में क्या problem है? और worst case में attempt gets over, you start teaching तब किताब पढ़ोगे. Okay, तो पढ़ना तो पड़ेगा बच्चे. And कुल मिला के not more than 8 or 9 books, and that's important. Okay, let's not compromise this. ठीक है? Okay, so chapter 1, page number 1. Okay, and in this you have this concept: human geography versus human ecology. I'll give you some words here, just for the sake of completion here. Okay, it says the concept of human ecology was by American geographers who believe in a social Darwinism. Whenever I use the word Darwinism, it's about something adapting itself to the nature. Darwin is evolution, no? Okay, so when I adjusting with the nature, cold conditions, long body hair, problems of a rarefied atmosphere, my lungs will become bigger. Okay, it's very hot conditions, the skin might become more darker. Okay, so we call that as Darwinism. Wherever we have impact of environment, it's called as social Darwinism. Okay, and this was given by Harlem Barrows, I mentioned. Okay, in his address to a man's society, all facts. And he declared that human geography is human ecology. So, agar aapko human aspects padhna hai, the approach is the approach of human ecology. They try to establish the interactive relationship between man and his biotic, abiotic elements of the environment. They opine that a struggle for existence must take place. So when man is surviving, he's kind of struggling, fighting, okay, in the process of adaptation. He opined that a struggle for existence. So superior adaptations will increase, and the ones that can't adapt will get eliminated. So somewhere, man's evolution is related to the process of human ecology. Man is adjusting, man is accommodating as the environment becomes different in trying to survive there. Yeah, exactly. The concept of survival of the fittest. Okay. Okay, so advocates of human ecology believe that all ecological principles like food chain, food web are applicable to all aspects of biology. Okay, from plants to animals to people. The ecosystems concept applies at all type of study of life forms. Plants का ecosystem होता है, वैसे we also have something about people also. Okay, so human ecology, it puts man at par with plants, animals, fine. You just need to know a few lines here. Okay, what is human ecology? दो तीन line में. An approach that defines the scope of human geography. ठीक है? Okay, that was one discussion. So in the notes, please write down these pages. Okay, page 1 and page 2, human ecology. Okay, let's move on. The next one is page 71. आपकी किताब में कौन सा पेज है देखो? This is evolution and races of man. A topic called as evolution of man. This is chapter number 2. What page? Same page? 71. Okay, most of us 71. ठीक है? The evolution of man. Okay, it says there is no evidence to establish whether the first man appeared on earth, okay, when he was born and so on. The evolution comparing biological man, other animals, okay, some debate here. Okay, and it says, last paragraph देखो इसमें, if you have on the same page. Biologically, man is related to apes and diverged from a common ancestral species which, not generally specialized, lived both upon the ground and in the trees, somewhere in the tertiary times, around 65 million years ago. I think ये numbers आपको याद है, right? Okay, the tertiary era witnessed alpine orogeny, the rise of Alps in Europe. ठीक है? Okay, that apes, okay, were arboreal, means living in the trees. They were arboreal. They were vegetarian. And by being able to move rapidly without the forest, okay, fine. Then what happened was, man has become, it says pipe, it is actually biped. Okay, ये spelling error है. Biped means walking on two legs. Man becomes biped, adapted for walking and running. He has thumbs opposed to fingers, opposable thumb. Adoption of erect posture. ये सब दिखा दिया था आपको मैंने. What are the features of man's evolution, biology evolution? Man develops a stereoscopic vision. He is far more intelligent, high cranial capacity brains, okay, and therefore the evolution happens. The change of habitat and so on. Okay, so now in this table, this graph here, we call it evolution tree. Okay, सबको जरूरत नहीं देखना. You see, it starts, okay, some here. We have the first ancestor of gibbons, it says. Okay. Then around 4.5 million years, 4 to 5 million years में, this was the beginning of, remember hominins की बात हो रही थी हमने? Okay, so Australopithecus. Can you see this? Australopithecus, the first tool maker and the user. Some branching happens. The gibbons separate out earlier. Orangutans separate out earlier. Chimpanzees, gorillas come up. Okay, these are those apes, great apes, little apes, and this branches the hominidae. Hominidae or hominids. और यहाँ से you move towards hominins. Okay, so some facts के लिए. So look, when does man or the early hominin arrives? 4.5 million years ago. The earliest, okay, forms of hominins. And I mentioned this one called Australopithecus. याद आ रहा है? Okay. Then you look at Neanderthal man. You look at the scale, Neanderthal man and Homo erectus, okay, around 2 to 3 million years ago. Okay, इसको divide कर लो, 4 है यहाँ पर. So around that time, 2.3 million years ago, they arrive. Neanderthals, okay, ये खत्म हो जाते हैं around 50,000 years ago. The Neanderthal man goes extinct. Okay, and for some time, Homo sapiens and Neanderthal, they were cohabiting. Man appears around 3 lakh. So यहाँ पर देखोगे अगर ये 5 lakh 50,000 years है और ये 5 lakh years है. So man arrives around 3 lakh years ago, the modern man, Homo sapiens. And from the Homo sapiens, we have the different races now. So around 10,000 years ago, okay, we have the rise of cultures around 10,000 years ago. I hope all of you can see in your books, please. Okay, so don't copy the whole thing exactly. Yeah, so 10,000 years ago, we have the modern man who can manipulate tools, agriculture, okay, living in societies, he starts appearing. Okay, so study this and round off the numbers whatever you can. Okay, this table is for your reference. Okay, so page 73. Page 73. Okay, there is one nice paragraph on man's evolution, the final stage of evolution, the formation of or the evolution of Homo sapiens. I recommend आप ये इसको पढ़ लेना. It talks about the forest becomes savanna, okay, and herbivore animals and so on. This is what is called as the savanna, okay, theory of man's evolution. When we have more grasslands, the man starts hunting, running, walking biped and so on. Okay, so this paragraph is a nice one. Some details. Don't go beyond this. Just this paragraph. Page 73 ka last paragraph. See, study में ना खासकर you are in a competitive examination and there's a lot to do. Okay, I'm answering a question. Wait. What I'm teaching you essentially is graduation level of geography plus a good amount of PG level also, which in college is covered over 4 or 5 years. Okay, I'm teaching that to you in 6 months time. Along with this, आपको GS भी करना है, current affairs भी करना है, ठीक है? So, lot to do. A very important aspect is have a sense of priority. Okay, the question is asking me essentially, sir, क्या पूरा किताब पढ़ना पड़ेगा? पूरा किताब पढ़ लें? तो हाँ पढ़ लो ना, कोई मना थोड़ी कर रहा है. Book is always nice, but then priority should be, let me read at least what sir is teaching me. Okay, do this, do your GS notes, do current affairs, do some synopsis writing. उसके बाद आपका जान बचता है, टाइम बचता है तो पढ़ लो ना, क्या दिक्कत है? The problem is, okay, you read the whole book, you can't finish it, and all other work is pending. That is a bad strategy. That's why I'm saying these books are reference books. Reference books कभी पूरा पढ़ा नहीं जाता है, unless you want to become a teacher. वो अलग बात है. As a teacher, I must know every page of the book. Okay, but you do this much first. Sir said page 71, इतना ही पढ़ के छोड़ देते हैं. Okay, सर पढ़ने का ज्यादा मन कर रहा है. बड़ा मन का मैं क्या करूं? Okay, मन तो लगा हुआ है मेरा पड़ोसी के घर में. Okay, बार बार चले जाते हैं balcony में, you know, you do this, isn't it? You develop your features. तो उस मन का मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकता. Okay, मन मौजी. Okay, reels देखो बैठ के और क्या. This is what is called being pragmatic. So one school of thought says notes are enough. Okay, I say no. But books आप सारा पढ़ नहीं पाओगे. The only book to be read full is NCERT books. And these books go with me. And I will not give this to you every day. Okay, I'll give you one day in 3-4 days. Okay, एक paragraph पढ़ना है, finish that off in 1 hour or 2 hours time. That's all. Yes, Vartika. So your sequence of study should be, some of you join me later. Your sequence should be, पहले class notes करो. Class notes convert into, okay, class summaries and synopsis. Then you will study the books, or books में जो extra है. Maybe some extra fact is there, some extra diagram is there. Okay, maybe I have not taught some sentences, maybe. Okay, उसको add कर लो in synopsis or add them in your class notes. My recommendation is इसको यहाँ पर add करो. Because, the truth, you know what? You can never read from these notes again. आप जब notes खोलोगे नींद आएगी आपको. Because it's familiar. But this is where your actual padhai happens. So, in a synopsis, okay, don't write on both sides. On one side. The पीछे का page है, उसको रखो to add more information. ठीक है? So, notes तो बनाना है, but then don't make detailed notes. Just pick up what's missing. वो add कर दो. You like a nice sentence, वो add कर दो. You like a nice diagram, वो draw कर लो. Use your judgment. Vartika, ठीक है? Okay. You cannot just read them. You have to have it in a form where you can consume and revise later on. हमेशा याद रहे, most of you will need the notes if you are good in 25. For others, you might need in 26, 27. ये reality है. The second, third attempt. If you don't note it down, you will not know what to revise. ठीक है? Keep that in mind. अभी fresh है, याद हो रहा है. Wait for 1 week's time and you'll forget what I have taught you today. What is urbanization? So India country है क्या, sir? Okay? So, okay, fine. So I hope I am prevailing on that. Come back. Okay, this one paragraph you should do. Then you move on towards. Okay. Now, this is a nice diagram. You can draw, though I'll come and teach you again afterwards. Page number 91 or 93. Okay. A diagram of the old civilizations of Earth. मिला आपको ये वाला? The first civilizations. Know the names at least. We have Nile Valley, Mesopotamia, Harappan Valley. We have the Wanghe Valley here. Okay. Then we have the civilizations in Andes, the Kiko civilizations. In parts of Mexico, okay, we have the Yucatan Peninsula, the Olmecs, the Mayans, the Aztecs, number 7. The Mexicos or the Olmecs. मिल रहा है आपको यहाँ पर? So have an idea about where all we had the old civilizations. ऐसा ही एक map is also on page number 383. Okay, turn your pages please. 383 होगा या आगे पीछे एक आध और पेज देख लो आप. Same page? अलग पेज होगा. Maybe 388 देखो. The new edition maybe. This is the diagram. Right? This is also same thing, but that is called as the first civilization. This is called as the first urbanizations. Same idea. The Mesoamerican regions, Peru, Nile Valley, Mesopotamia, Indus Valley, Wanghe Valley. And if you're curious, you have got some passages here. Who were the first Mesopotamians? The Nile Valley civilizations. Okay. Just one page, not more than that. Indus River, Wanghe Valley, Mesoamerican, and the Peru urban hearth. The word hearth, anybody knows what's the meaning of the word hearth? Yeah? Cooking vessels? No. Hearth means fireplace. So, घर में hearth क्या होता है? The kitchen area. Okay, think of cave dwellers. Okay, the word hearth means home. The first hearths of human civilization is the first home where civilizations happened. The 6-7 places, and this is where the population starts growing and expanding. Okay, so I have these diagrams. Yeah, fine. And इसी page में यही लिखो, page 388 लिखो, and go back on the other page and write down page number 91, 93, whatever you have. You correlate the pages. Okay, what diagrams are where? Okay. Then we move on towards, wait. One more discussion is left here. Page 112, page 114. 112 in my book, edition 5. The 6 might have page 114. Mila? Discussion is population distribution. Mila, all of you?
Yes.
What page? Page 114. Fine. The new edition is 114. The older one is 112. Now, this is a quick read. Okay. So, the striking aspect is not uniformly distributed. 30% of land area is virtually uninhabited. Okay. Dense areas, East China, South Asia, सब बता दिया मैंने आपको. But one good reading will consolidate your concepts well. Okay. East Asia, South Asia, Northwest Europe, America, and so on. Pick up some data here. Northern Hemisphere has 75% of the world's population, okay, and so on. Then there are urban areas, like Singapore, Taiwan. East and South Asia are rural areas. मिल रहा है आपको top points here? So a very fast reading. In China, कहाँ पर हैं? Huanghe Basin, Changyang Basin, Xinjiang, India, Indus, Satluj, Ganga, Brahmaputra, Pakistan, and so on. Okay, a lot of urban agglomerations where populations live. India's density is 382. I gave you a range, right? 380 to 400. That's good enough. Bangladesh, even higher. Okay, some discussions here. Factors क्या हैं? Factors are physical factors. देख रहा physical factors?
Yes.
Physical factors, there are cultural factors, the trade relationship, colonization. Underline all the words. Okay, I'm helping you move faster here. The growth of European population is because of industrial revolution, exploitation, food raw materials. Okay. North America has a very short history. Why do people live less in North America? Because smaller history in terms of civilizations. The population of America grew only after industrial revolution of 1779. We have urbanized belts of Boston, Washington. Okay. Some of them are isolated pockets, scattered pockets, nuclei, population density. Here are small cities that we have. Grow into big cities today. So example is Mexico City, coastal areas of Venezuela, Brazil, the coasts, and so on. Okay. And what are the areas of sparse population? Okay, deserts, arid lands, ice caps, regions, and so on. Okay. So one fast reading, and have a habit of picking up good words also. Okay, like आपका language also starts improving gradually. Okay, now read through these two pages. Page number 119 in the old one, 121 in the new edition. You have the concept of physiological density. मिला आपको? I gave you comparison of India and Japan. India data पुराना है, that's why 382. Okay. 846, I give you about less than 1,000. Japan, it says 350 is 2958. Pick up one or two more examples for that matter. What is the arithmetic and what is physiological density? Okay, and then it details. Okay, it's arable land, total population by total arable land. मिल रहा है आपको, all of you? Okay, just two paragraphs here. And this is a comparison for the continent scale. Asia's total population and what is the physiological density. Africa's population and Africa's density and so on. ठीक है? So that's your reference for the last 3 classes. All of you see, my request will be patient with every study process. आप लोग ना एक टाइप का पढ़ाई करके आए हो, the school colleges, and some of you are doing GS elsewhere, उनका अलग method होगा. There's no best method. There's a method I follow, in which I write, I draw diagrams, I dictate, like I have discussions of some concepts. So not all of you are familiar with this type of teaching. Give me 1 week, 10 days time. You all will ultimately settle down, don't worry. Okay? So your assignment for today will be revise the previous 3 classes and do this reading of the passages I have given you. Achha, one miss was last Saturday we had a reading session. I forgot to tell all of you. अब जाने के बाद मुझे याद है बोलना था आपको. At 3:30 in the afternoons on Saturdays, okay, we have some reading sessions. In reading sessions, I teach how to read articles. I teach how to write essays also. And it is there on the YouTube. Okay. I recommend, अगर आप आसपास रहते हो, come to class live. Otherwise, watch from your home, no worries. So if you guys have missed a session, go back and refer to the YouTube there. Okay, and there are some resources we have put on the website. You can download that also if you want. Okay, and this week, before I forget, on Friday 3:30, we'll have compilation of polity current affairs. On Saturday 3:30, again we'll have another reading session. Okay? That's for today for all of you. Now, older students, जिसका बचा हुआ है political geography. Now it is 2:05 by my watch. You all be back by 2:30. Okay, I want to finish off, not the new ones, and the older ones. Okay, I need 2 or 3 sessions to finish off. Richa, batao. Yeah, you can all leave. Okay, take a break of half an hour. Older ones, come back. I'll have political geography. Richa, tell me, please. Pankaj, was it in YouTube or the entire dashboard? Richa, what's your question? Richa, wait for that. Acha Pankaj, then you send a mail to us and I'll find out why it's missing on your dashboard. Harshvardhan, bad question. We start the class and then discover kitna lamba class hai. Aniket, wait for that. You do your work, I'll come back on that. Good, nice, Priyanshu. Happy supporting you. Yeah, the old students, you have a link on your dashboard. Go back and click on that.